Okay, going live in 3, 2, you're live.
Hi, welcome to the Brentwood community on behalf of the Board of Education, Central Administrators, and our council. Of course, always our district clerk. Welcome to the May 6th, 2001 Brentwood Board of Education budget meeting and budget workshop and budget presentation and special meeting. The intention for tonight is for us to open our meeting and immediately go into exec and then come back out at 6:30 for the public portion of our meeting. So with that being said, I would like to ask that we have a motion to convene general session at 5:07 p.m. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by trustee Holder Daniel. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by trustee Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. And now I'm going to need a motion to recess general session and convene into executive session at 5:07 p.m. for the purpose of pending 3028 charges against a tenured employee and seeking legal advice from the board's attorney. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by trustee Gonzalez Prescott. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by trustee Holder Daniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. To everybody in the public, hope to see you back at 6:30. In the meantime, Candace, if you could let us know when we are in
2, 1.
Good evening to the Brentwood community, and I have to begin by apologizing on behalf of the entire board and central administration for coming out so late. I know that we did give the updates in terms of the time, but the last time we even went over by an additional 15 minutes. So I could assure you that we are taking care of a tremendous amount of business on behalf of the community and all its students. They're very, very, very productive. So with that being said, I'm just going to go right into the agenda for tonight. And before we go to the special meeting portion, I'd like to invite everybody to please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the
to
flag
the
of the United States of
America,
America,
to the United
and
States
to
of
the
America,
republic to which it stands, one
one
nation, under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And again, welcome back to the business portion of our meeting. We are going to go with the agenda that was on our website. The consent agenda, be it resolved that the following items be approved. B2A and B2B, order of business. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby suspends the order of business for this meeting and this meeting only according to policy 2350. And there is an item on additional election inspectors for the upcoming budget vote. Could I have a motion to?
I have a question. Kathy,
Yes.
do they have to be a certain age to be doing this?
Yes, they have to be a certain age and their parents had to sign off saying that they were allowed to work.
I'm just curious, what is the age?
17.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was a question on B2B in terms of additional election inspectors. So on the consent agenda, be it resolved the following items be approved, B2A and B2B. Could I have a motion, please? As proposed on the
Motion.
agenda. Motion by Trustee Moore. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Trustee Safiri. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. D1A, separate voting items. Approval for legal defense as proposed on the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Holder Daniel. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Burgos. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Thank you very much. That concludes the voting items for tonight. Mr. Loshner and Ms. O'Connor, you are on item number 4, and that's the budget hearing for tonight. Mr. Loshner, you are on mute. You're on mute,
You're on
Rich.
mute.
You're on mute.
Oh, I apologize for that. I didn't even realize that. So maybe you know what? You probably should have kept me on mute. First of all, we are excited tonight for our budget hearing. We're excited to address the Board of Education. We want to thank you for giving us the time, as well as the community. I hope that there are many that are watching this evening. If not, I hope they tune in and they watch it on tape over the next week or so before the budget. But we are excited. We're in a very interesting time, and you know, we've put a great deal of effort into this budget along with the Board of Education. Obviously, we've had a series of budget hearings over the last several months, and lots have transpired since January to this time in May, which is now when we present the final budget to the community. So with that, you know, I will turn it over to Ms. O'Connor, who will begin with the first slide. We'll kind of be tag teaming as we go through the night, but really the lion's share will be taken care of by Ms. O'Connor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Loshner. So we'll get right into the budget. This is our formal budget hearing, which we're required to have by the state. So we'll start right with the numbers. Our proposed budget is $454,813,370. Copy of the budget is on our website as well as our bulletin, so you can look through that for more information. There's also a comparison to the current year's budget. And the budget highlight, because I'm on that slide, is that we have a 0% tax levy increase that we're proposing with this $454 million budget. At our last meeting, when we talked about revenue and the tax levy limit calculation, I'll just go over briefly about that. We know the tax levy limit is calculated based on the lower of CPI or 2%. CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, is 1.23%. So that's the lower of the two numbers. But our actual allowable levy increase this year due to some carryover from the previous year, because we didn't levy as much as we could have, and actually in the past few years, and also a capital exclusion, that brings our allowable levy increase to 3.56%. So we could have come out that high without having a supermajority vote. But instead, like I started off on this slide, the actual levy that we're proposing is a 0% increase. It's staying the same. Give a little history about the state budget, and we've mentioned some of this at previous meetings. Back in January, when the governor comes out with his budget, he had proposed a $2.1 billion increase for education. For Brentwood, that increase came to 10.6 million. That included stimulus funding, which is kind of a dangerous thing to do in a budget, to take a one-time revenue and include that for ongoing expenditures. It creates an issue when that funding dries up, and you no longer have it because you still have the expenditures that you had been charging against that funding. So in April, when the budget was actually adopted, that was all changed, thank goodness, to help really all school districts. So then the statewide increase, now this is just state money, the increase was $3 billion. That does not include additional stimulus funding. For Brentwood, our overall increase is $45 million in state aid. About half of that is for foundation aid. I shouldn't say that. The state's share of the $3 billion, about half of their money went towards foundation aid throughout the state. For us, our increase in foundation aid is actually $35 million. And also on the state side, the major focus of the money, the $3 billion that they contributed, is a restoration of the pandemic adjustment. That's the monies that they took away from school districts in the current 2021 school year. They then plugged that money with federal stimulus money that they had already received. For Brentwood, that was $4.6 million. This is a copy of our state aid run that you could get right off the state aid website. And I pointed out some of the important numbers on this. You can see our foundation aid increase that I just mentioned of $35 million. And then at the bottom, well, you could see our overall increase of 45 million right here also. That's the overall increase. This is the foundation aid. And at the bottom, we also received some additional stimulus funding. We have the CRRSA funding, which is the December stimulus that had come out. That we have until September 2023 to actually spend. So these are multi-year. The two numbers at the bottom, I should say, are multi-year aids. And then the American Rescue Plan is $41 million. And we have an additional year for that one to spend up to September 2024. So just a little history on foundation aid, where it came from. Hang on. Yes, I'll let Candace back in. Little history on foundation aid. It actually originated in 2006. That is after a court ruling, which is in favor of the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. That's when New York City sued the state, saying they're not providing a sound basic education for students in New York City. It originally started to be funded. It was supposed to be foundation. It was supposed to be funded over 4 years based on that court ruling. And they started to fund it, but then if you think back to that time, we had the double recession hit. So they weren't able to fully fund foundation aid. And since then, about 2008, I'd say, we've been well behind in what the foundation aid formula says versus what we're actually receiving. So jump forward to 2018, Brentwood filed a complaint with the Federal Office of Civil Rights, kind of saying the same thing, that the foundation aid, even though we have a formula, it's still not being distributed fairly among school districts, or to us, we should say. And if you remember the banners from that time, we had some press conferences, and we had that we were underfunded by $129 million. Now that's per year. That's not over the whole, all of the years of foundation aid. That's in 1 year we were underfunded that much. And that was every year, basically. But that number grew since even a few years ago, 2018, and it's now up to 135 million per year that we were underfunded. That's prior to getting our aid runs for the 2021 school year, where we got the increase of 35 million. So 35 million is definitely a generous, I should say, increase in foundation aid. But if I subtract that, we're still owed about $100 billion per year. So I had alluded to the press conferences earlier. In October 2018, we were at the Nassau Supreme Court, and I just saw a picture of that actually in Newsday, at least the Newsday Online, they used a picture from that. And then we also had a press conference in our high school in February of 19, and we had some very well-spoken students at that press conference. It was very impressive. So finally, the state responded this year with a pledge to fully fund foundation aid over 3 years. So our $35 million increase is the first year of 3. We hope the state can afford it. They've made some changes in their budget to hopefully fund it, but only time will tell. Some of the use of foundation aid. Rich, did you want to jump in here? You want me to keep going?
No, I'll give you a break, Stacy. So yeah, we took a look at, obviously the additional foundation aid, and obviously in consultation with the board over the last several months, these are just some of the items, the highlights of the items that we're going to use the additional foundation aid for. So we're going to, as number 1 says, we're going to restore the specialist positions to support students. As you know, last year, the Board of Education had to make some difficult choices. And obviously, because we were well, last year, I think Stacy might have mentioned it, we actually did not get an increase in state aid. As a matter of fact, we actually went down by $500,000, which left us in a very difficult position, and we had to make some tough choices. So we removed many of the specialists across the district. So the Board of Education has said, let's restore those specialist positions to support students in all grades. That's really K through 12. We're really excited that we're expanding our summer enrichment offerings. That is going to be something we'll send out to the district within the next week or two. We're really going to offer summer courses from grades K all the way up to 11th grade. It's obviously designed, it's multi-purpose. It's designed to help students, who might have regressed slightly because of the pandemic. So there are enrichment opportunities, again, for all grade levels. We're also expanding our summer school offering. That is grades 9 through 12. Mr. Chang is the principal. We're having on-site summer school courses that will hopefully help our high school students. Again, if they want to do credit recovery, there's that opportunity there in the summer, as well as credit advancement that will also be offered to our high school students. So we're real excited about the opportunities. The assistant superintendents, the entire cabinet, the director of special services, along with the BTA and BIPSO, have worked really quite a bit on putting out some great summer enrichment courses. So keep an eye out, folks, for those announcements. Also, we started last year, I'm sure the community knows at this point, that we started a one-to-one laptop initiative for all students, K through 12. At this point, we're well over 15,000 laptops that have been distributed to the buildings and sent out to the students. However, next year, we're committed to ensuring that every one of our students, K through 12, will be issued a laptop, for them to use at home as well as in school. And that's one of the exciting, outcropping of this initiative, that we hope to have students use the laptop while they're in school. It'll be a nice addition to the classroom instruction. We're also increasing art and music offerings at the elementary level. We had to cut them back over the last several years, so we're real excited about putting those back into the offerings at elementary school. We're also increasing some sport offerings. Our new athletic director, along with students who've really been asking for this over the last couple of years, badminton and bowling are just two examples. There may be even more. But we're real excited about giving those opportunities to kids. We're going to add some computer support positions. One of the things that we have done, obviously, we've bought in about 19 to 20,000 laptops that will be given out. We also are committed to putting Aquas boards in all of our classrooms. Obviously, that is a tremendous amount of hardware that we're bringing into the district. And really, it would be foolish to make that commitment without adding some support services to the IT department. So that's what those positions are about. We're also restoring the assistant principals at the elementary school, and we're also restoring some operational positions. There are a number of positions that have been cut back over the last few years, and we're excited to put them back into the budget to help our buildings. And the pupil support services, the social worker. I know many people are wondering, are we going to restore some of the positions? We actually had a social worker position that was not hired for the high school. We're actually in the midst of hiring the social worker to fill that vacant position. And then next year, we're going to add an additional social worker. We're also adding 3 psychologists to our staff next year. And again, we're really concerned, and the board has been concerned with, obviously, the social emotional impact that this pandemic has had on our students and families. And we recognize the need really to put in supports prior to the students arriving to us in September. We're putting back in the high school drug counselor. We had to make, again, a decision last year to consolidate some positions. So we're very excited about bringing back the drug counselor. I think that's going to be a tremendous help to our students. And an elementary guidance counselor was also, we also eliminated that, and we're bringing back an elementary guidance counselor. Real excited about the capital improvement. Obviously, we're thrilled with all of these positions, but we're excited about the opportunity that the Brentwood School District has because of the additional foundation aid. So we're actually putting into our capital reserve fund this year, with the approval of this budget, $11,894,168 will go into our capital reserve fund. That will be, as Stacy wrote down there, that will actually be a transfer out of our general fund into the capital fund, the capital reserve fund. Now, if you notice that the $454 million, that will take this almost 12 million immediately out of that and transfer that to the capital reserve fund. And we're going to spend a few minutes on the next few slides explaining some of the things that the Board of Education would like to see and some of the opportunities that we have in front of us for next year. I'll go one more, Stacy, because this is the fun stuff. Then I'll turn it over to you.
Sure.
So we have, we're really excited about this. This is something that Rhonda Young, the Director of Special Services, and the entire Special Service Department have been asking for a number of years. So we're happy to have the opportunity to offer this to our kids. It's called Sensory Playgrounds. It's a little more extensive, lots of colors, lots of tactile objects in there. And that's for all students, obviously, but it really will help, some of our special needs students as well. And we're going to put that over at Oak Park and Southwest. We're real excited about that. We're also looking to upgrade. Some of the upgrades might occur in the Sondling Auditorium. So that might be, we're looking at redoing the carpet because it's over 20 years old, as well as a sound system and lighting system. So we're looking at that.
How about the walls? The walls are horrible.
The walls actually, yeah, do need to be repaired as well.
Yeah.
Some of them, the material that they used is obviously fraying at the bottom, Cindy. So yeah, we're going to look into that as well.
Yeah, please.
Now, you know, we're also looking at the second floor bathrooms at the Ross Center. And those, they have to be abated first and then obviously redone. Those are quite expensive. To abate a bathroom and then redo a bathroom can be upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's quite a project, so we're excited to be able to do that. One of the things too we're excited to do really for the community, this is going to be something I think that every community member will take a tremendous amount of pride in, and that is we're looking to redo at the high school turf fields, the football stadium, as well as the boys and girls soccer and lacrosse field. Again, this is at no cost to the district because of that transfer of funds to the Capital Reserve Fund. We're really getting the most for our dollar. And actually, maybe even Stacy can explain exactly how much that 12 million actually translates into quite a bit more money. The Oak Park classrooms, we're looking to replace the sinks. These are just some of the items. One of the things that we actually had to put on hold last year, but we're going to be able to move forward with that. That's the West Middle School, adding the parking spaces and repaving the lot. We're actually going to kind of cut away some of the needless areas in front of the West Middle School. They've always had a traffic problem over there and a parking problem. So we're actually looking forward to making that, opening that up for our parents when they come to special events, as well as the teachers when they park.
Not to interrupt again, but what about all the sinks in the high school in the science rooms?
Well, that's actually, remember, some of the
I
things.
just don't see it on here, so I don't know if I don't want you to forget about that.
No.
I mean, that's
We actually have another slide of
Okay.
capital improvements. So maybe I'll
I
zip
didn't
through
see
those
it on
two
the other
things.
slide. That's why I'm asking. Okay, maybe I
Oh,
missed
no,
it.
we're still going.
Okay.
But, understand that there's actually lots of things that we're going to do, a great many things that we're going to do over the next few years. So what we had to do was identify some projects really just within a 2 to 3 week time frame. We had to identify some of the most important, projects for us. So the locker rooms, I know Cindy, you've mentioned the locker rooms many times. We're going to do the locker room upgrades in both the Sondling and the Ross. That's going to include lighting, flooring, ventilation, ceilings, lockers, and benches. We're going to redo the girls and boys locker room, as well as the team locker room in both the Ross and the Sondling building. So we're putting quite a bit of work, into the high school, both interior and exterior. And we're also going to hit a number of the other buildings. But remember, this is really multi-year plan. So after this year, if we continue to get the foundation aid and where, we move the money around properly, we move it into this capital reserve fund, we can really stretch our dollars tremendously. Some of the things that I pointed out to this point, if we didn't have this ability to transfer it into the capital reserve fund, we'd actually would have to go out to the community with a multi-year bond. So we're real happy that we have this opportunity to do many of these upgrades that will really help the Brentwood district for many, many, many years to come. So
Are we going to do all the stuff like that benefit the students first?
well,
You know what I'm saying? Like not I know we need the outside stuff done also.
well,
But I
Right.
want to see the stuff, more for the students that we use every day.
Well, actually, I think everything that I've mentioned up to this point is used pretty much every day
Okay.
by our
All right.
students. And also you have to understand that whenever you are doing projects and you're looking to get building aid back on the projects, and you're going to do some exterior projects, which I mentioned, the turf fields. You also have to do interior projects as well. So that's why I mentioned some of
That's what I'm asking. I didn't want to
Right.
see like the outside stuff get done where, not that it doesn't benefit our kids, but the inside, I really want to see done before the outside.
No, I absolutely. You have to understand that we're putting, we're doing projects that are gonna, really benefit students in all grades and all buildings. So I mentioned here, we have to, this is not maybe is not
Glamorous.
as sexy as like a turf field, but very, very important. We have to replace the ceiling tiles in both the Ross and Sondling. If you've been into the high school, you'll notice that
Oh, yeah.
on the old hallway, the center hallways, those are extremely old. So we will be upgrading those to much more pleasing tiles. The boilers are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And some of them are as old as 1962. And again, without this opportunity to upgrade, we might have had to go out to the community with a bond to replace some of these boilers. So we have the Ross boiler, West Middle School boiler. We have the generator over at West Middle School. And then we're going to either improve the grease traps or work on the septic tanks, which have been a problem in a number of buildings. I'm sure you're familiar with that over the years. And that's at the Sondling, the Freshman Center, Twin Pines, and Southwest. Okay, so we're really, we're really targeting certain upgrades and certain replacements that really we had to do. Many of these things we had to make this decision either this year or next year, and it was a great possibility that we'd have to go out to a bond to the district to be able to do some of these upgrades. So we're very happy to present to the board that we're going to, and the community, that we're going to be able to do some of these things by transferring some of this money from the foundation aid into the capital reserve fund. But Stacy, do you want to add anything more to that?
Yeah, sure. I just want to be clear on how we're going about this, because we are not going to, we're really not going to touch our capital reserve fund. In order to do that, we would need a separate proposition
Right.
on the, with our vote. So what we're doing is a transfer to the capital fund, which allows those funds to be available to us immediately. So when the community approves the budget, because it's part of our budget, it's part of that $454 million number, it's approving all of these projects as well. And remember, back to the first slide, even though we have all of these projects here and we're phasing in all of those positions as well that we've talked about, we're talking about a 0% levy increase even with this. So I just wanted to be clear, we're not touching the capital reserve, because there would be other things we would have to do
Right.
along with changing the capital reserve. In terms of this generating other projects, you had mentioned that, Mr. Lochner. Because we're going to have if we get the community approval, if the budget passes, we'll start to earn building aid as we close out these
Yep.
projects. So that frees up more money to do more projects if that's how we choose to use it. So it's a way to keep building upon the projects that we're doing, again, without charging the community anything in the future, or very little if we even have to charge them, through a bond issue or something. So this is a great opportunity, and it's kind of a gift that keeps on giving.
Stacey, I'm just curious, if we did the budget at 1.23, which would cost the community 18 cents a day, what would a bond, what's the difference if we had to ask the community for a bond? How much would that be?
What size bond?
That's what I'm asking. I don't know. I don't know how it works. So that's why I'm asking you this.
Yeah, it depends how much, are we gonna come out with a $20 million bond or a $100 million bond? That would impact how much.
So
it would
just say a
cost the
$20
community.
million bond, what would that cost the community?
1.23 on the tax rate is about,
I know 1.23 is like
million.
$60 a year.
it's about 1.4 million to the district though.
So
it's
it's cheaper
1.4
doing, so it's cheaper asking the community right now for 1.23 instead of 0, instead of going for a bond in case we need more money? Is that correct?
Well, I'm saying we're avoiding going for a bond by doing it this way, so we're not asking the community.
But
for
what
anything.
but I understand that, but we might not have enough money to do all this stuff.
Well, this is, Cindy, if I just might, and then Stacy, you could jump in. But no, this stuff that we're identifying right now, if the community approves this budget, we have the money for next year to do all of these projects. And then as Stacy, she's terrific at explaining it. It's really, as she said, kind of the gift that keeps on giving, that when we receive bill, after we close a project, for instance, I'm looking at the Ross boiler, and let's say that costs, let's say that costs $600,000. As soon as we finish that project, the very next year, the district gets building aid on that. So we're going to get aid on that, and then you can continue to do projects, after that. So it's really, so what you're describing though, Cindy, is something that we looked at as a board 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, we actually looked at putting a bond out, and that's actually a separate vote that we have to go out to the community. And
No, I'm just asking if you just say we ran out of money and you had to ask for a bond. That's exactly what you said, right? If we ran out of money, we had to ask the community for a bond. I'm just curious what a bond would cost compared to right now, just doing a 1.23 and having $1 million extra a year to give to our students to improve more things. That's all. I don't know how it works. And I wanted to know how much more that would cost the community if we did the bond compared to raising a tax at 1.23. That's
right.
Yeah, I would have to get the fiscal advisor involved to work on what they project that the interest rate to be. So that's a hard answer to give right now.
right. I'm sure it'd be a
Stacy.
lot more money.
Stacy, what's the reimbursement rate on the capital projects?
We'll get about 85 cents on the dollar back in building aid on all of the projects.
Right, thank you.
Sure.
Now, Stacy, that 85% is something that we could, as you said, use the following year to do other capital improvements. Is that correct?
The year after we close a project.
Yes.
With the state, then the building aid starts to flow and it comes in over a 15-year period.
But we're not limited to using, I'm sorry, Paul, we're not limited to using it just for building projects, right? That money just goes into the general fund, am I correct?
The $11.8 million that we identified for these capital improvements have to be used on these capital improvements.
No, I understand. I mean, I'm talking about the money that we're reimbursed after these projects are done.
Oh, no, that becomes an aid to our budget. You're
Or
correct. It
general
doesn't
fund.
only
Our general
get
fund,
used on
right.
capital.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, so we have the option of using it for other needs within the district. It could be hiring staff, curriculum, anything else that's needed.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Our budget expenditures, I like to show this each year. So we have a big budget, 454 million, but if you think about just $1 in the budget, and this holds true for all 454 million, but $1, out of that $1, 80% or 80 cents is spent directly on instruction, directly on our classrooms. Of that same dollar, 7 cents is spent on transportation, 9 cents is spent on general support, which is our central office administration, but it's also our buildings and grounds, our security, our IT department, and all of their equipment and supplies that they need. $1 would be spent, it's actually about half, about 50 cents, on interfund transfers that funds other instructional programs in the special aid fund, such as our summer special ed program and some other instructional programs. And then the rest, the 4% is spent on debt service. That's paying for prior years' bond issues. Has nothing to do with what we're doing, what we're proposing now. On our budget revenue, the other side, because our budget has to balance, the expenditures equal the revenues. For every dollar that we take in revenue, 69 cents out of that dollar comes from the state. 25 cents of that dollar comes from the tax levy. 4% is what we use towards our fund balance and our reserves, our appropriated fund balance. You've heard that term before, and it's in our budget bulletin as well. And then 2 cents from that dollar would come in from other sources. What to expect or what to look forward to in the 21-22 school year, and Mr. Lochner presented a lot of this previously. We anticipate learning to be 5 days a week in person in school. That's subject to any state or Department of Health regulations, of course, but that is what we are striving for. We'll have increased technology in the classrooms, not only the one-to-one initiative that Mr. Lochner mentioned earlier that we're undertaking for K-12, but we're adding Aquos boards to our classrooms as well. So as quickly as we can get them in, we certainly will. And I should add, under technology, our UPK students will be getting tablets as well. Not quite what we're giving out to our students, K-12, which are actual laptops. They're going to get tablets that they can use at the UPK.
That's great.
centers.
Thank you.
The additional summer enrichment offerings, Mr. Lochner went over in depth. The classroom support specialist, the PPS support, and additional art and music classes at the elementary school we covered as well. So
Did
it's a
we
very
take
exciting
art and music from the high school also and the middle school?
One more time, Cindy?
Did we take away also art and music from the middle school and the high school?
No, we never, no, we didn't reduce any of those sections, and those sections are already always driven by student requests. So if students request more art classes, for example, in the high school, then we'll add additional art staff.
All right.
There is one thing, however, that didn't make the slide that I do want to.
Wait a minute, I want to say it. Is it 9-period day?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Because
Yeah,
that's
no.
really what I would like to see for our students.
No, I understand, and that is something that I did mention to the board, that is, I think, should be a long-range plan. I didn't have an opportunity to discuss with the board in exec session some of the ideas I have moving forward, but that is something that is on the agenda possibly for next year. That's our hope. But I do have another idea I did want to bounce off the board, but I also wanted to say one of the things that didn't make it to this slide, we're actually adding additional technology classes at the freshman center. Currently, we only offer 5 per day. If we stay with an 8-period day, we want to add another 3 classes. So we're adding a technology teacher next year, and we're real excited about that, offering additional courses at the freshman center.
Good.
Will this also include enrichment classes for after school or?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's, again, we didn't identify everything here, but we've always had additional enrichment classes, and we're going to continue to offer them next year after
Wouldn't it be
school.
better if we offered them during the 9-period day?
Well, I think what Maria is
In elementary, yes.
yeah, what Maria is talking about is we
Oh.
have enrichment classes over at the elementary schools. We also, excuse me, we also have Saturday classes as well, and we'll continue with those next year also.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I know that we spoke about adding the 9-period day last year, and I hope that that does happen so that we can offer, more courses at the high school level. We also, I didn't see in these slides though, any mention of adding librarians. And I know that's a conversation we've also had. Is there any outlook for the future because like you said, this is not the only money. This is a 3-year
Right.
plan that we have for getting monies in. So I know some of the things that we don't see here will be added next year and possibly the year after that. So I just want to make sure that librarians are on our radar for that. And the addition of additional social workers, even though we're adding 2, one is should have been added last year. So we're really only adding 1. And the goal is that between social workers, psychologists, and guidance counselors, it would be great if we could have some continuity in the buildings so that we could have at least one of those personnel in the same building throughout the whole week so that students can have that continuity of service. So is
Yeah.
that a goal that we can work towards?
No, that's going to occur next year, that we're going to keep a psychologist and or a social worker in every single building, K through 12. What we're also doing, and I should, specify here that not every single position, and I apologize if it's not, because it would just be too extensive, but not every single position that we're adding is actually on all of these slides. You mentioned the library media specialist. That is a priority of ours. I wanted to continue to speak with the board to see if that is something that could be supported. So yeah, that's, the district cut many, many years ago prior
Right.
to this board and year, the elementary librarians. We would like to add that back to the budget. But again, that's something I'd like to talk to the board about as we move forward. We
Yeah,
are
so-
committed to having a social worker and a psychologist remain in the building. I did mention to the board at one time, we did want to hire, Miss Young had asked if we could hire some specialists that would chair committees. And if we did that, we would then keep the psychologist in the buildings all day long rather than being pulled out to sit on committees. That again, we didn't include that in the slide, but that's in that's our goal for next year, to add those positions.
Well, you did say 3 psychologists though in the slides. So are those psychologists going into the buildings or into CSE?
They're going into the buildings. Those are not the 2 positions that were mentioned,
Okay.
that I just
So-
mentioned, that I just
That you
spoke.
just, right. So I'm only saying this because we did have some conversations about this. So, I'm not seeing some of those positions.
Right.
So the 2 psychologists, we were told last week or last time we met that they were going to be hired. So are we going to get 2 psychologists to do CSEs?
To do CSEs, yes. They're actually going.
In
to-
addition to the 3 going into the building?
In addition to the 3, yes. Well, you have to understand that we're also bringing back, and again, it's not, we don't go over every single item here because we have discussed it in prior budget meetings. But we are bringing back we're bringing back to the school, to one of the elementary schools, 2 812 classes. That's 16 students that we're going to bring back to the school district. And that's going to necessitate the hiring of a psychologist as well as some other support services like speech and hearing. So we're moving forward. That's actually going to be a great thing for our students, which we're really thrilled about. But it also is going to result in a savings to the district because we're not sending students out to all-day BOCES. So again, some of these.
So we're really hiring 5 psychologists.
Yes, but 2 of them will be to chair CSEs.
Right. Okay. And I also just wanted to mention nurses. I know this comes up very, very often. But we do always seem to have nurse shortages, even at times when we seem to be at full staff. Not a week or a month or, a couple of months go by that we don't fall back into being in a deficit mode. So is there a way that we can increase our nursing staff and look at everything related to that nursing issue, including salaries? I know it's
Yes, and that's something I have to present to the board. As you guys know, I have been in communication with the leadership of the nurses union. They did present something to us, and we'll present that to the Board of Education when we have an opportunity. And we're excited about that. We're thankful that the board wants to enter into those negotiations, but we're also we actually are going to be hiring nurses. You'll see them on this month's agenda. Susan Averso and Helene, they've actually, they're interviewing nurses constantly. So yeah, we do want to, and we also want to add, they asked me the other day if we can add an additional nurse for next year that will help out in registration as well as in the be afloat. And we're doing that as well. So we're increasing our nursing staff.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just jump back real quickly to the presentation. There are only a couple more slides left. We went over a lot of the good news. So what happens if the budget is not approved? Just something, I have to share with the community. And that is the board would have a few choices. They can propose the same budget and or the same levy for the revote in June. The revote will be the third Tuesday in June. They have the option to revise the budget and the levy or adopt a contingent budget. If we go right to a contingent budget, the contingent budget rules are the current year's levy may not be increased, but we're not increasing that anyway based on the proposed budget. But the contingent budget rules would create reductions to the budget. You would have to eliminate equipment items except for a minor amount of hardware that we could buy up to our state aided amount, which is about $350,000. We would have to eliminate all of the capital projects that we've talked about under a contingent budget. We must charge for the use of facilities, any identifiable cost to the district. If we need to have custodians there, security there, or what have you, we would have to charge for that. We'd have no choice. And there'd also be.
Don't we do that? Sorry, Stacy. Don't we charge anyway?
Oh,
It depends what organization uses the facilities and when they use it. If we have staff on and it's a community organization, we typically don't. If it's a weekend, we have to bring staff in. Yes, we would charge for that.
Okay.
There would also be a restriction on purchases of certain school supplies. So there would be a bigger burden on our families to purchase some supplies. So if we look at the numbers with the budget amount is 454 million under the proposed budget. The contingent budget will be 441 million under a contingent budget. The levy increase would be the same on both, a 0% levy increase. The only thing the contingent budget represents is the decrease of the capital supplies and the equipment. So the vote is on Tuesday, May 18th at your local elementary school. If you're not sure where you vote, you can just go on to the district's website and search for the district clerk's area. And there's a link you can click on and you just put in your address and it'll tell you where your polling site is. So any questions from the board? We answered them all as we went along, I guess.
Yep.
That's
you.
remarkable.
Thank you, right.
Well, you want me to think of some more questions?
We did ask some.
Yes, quite a few. Yeah, that was
I
good.
can think of some more if you really
Oh,
want.
no. Listen,
I got a list of things we need. Uniforms. You want me to go through the list? Huh? What's uniforms? Let's see. I mean, come on,
Comment.
if you really want to hear it.
no, and you know what? One of the bright spots of this, of this budget and hopefully future budgets, as Stacy mentioned, that they wrote it into law that they have to fully fund the foundation aid formula over the next 3 years. So we're extremely hopeful that this will continue. But we're really in a very unique time for Brentwood. And I have to be honest with you, we were very frightened just a few months ago. The governor came out with a $10 million increase. And, Stacy and I met obviously the next day and we thought, okay, well, maybe the legislature will come out with maybe an $11 or $12 million increase. And we would survive. We've done a tremendous job, and Stacey O'Connor deserves a tremendous amount of kudos, and I know the board agrees with me there. Done a tremendous job with our finances over the last decade. So we're in a good place financially. However, if we did only come up with $10 million, we would have to make lots of difficult choices. Because we borrowed, one of the things that we forget, it wasn't actually in this presentation, we presented it in other budget hearing meetings, but we borrowed over $38 million last year. We rolled that into this year's budget in order to be able to, pay for this year's budget. One of the things Stacy mentioned in one of the prior meetings, we actually are now, what we're required to do is we need to lower that. So we're actually lowering that $38 million, and it's actually going to be less than $20 million that we're rolling over into this year's to this year's budget. That's a tremendous accomplishment, to be able to do that and still add all of these additional services and capital improvement projects to the district. So really, kudos to Stacy, kudos to the board. And I think we're in a great place. Some of these projects that we mentioned, boilers are not, a lot of fun to talk about. But in all honesty, that's about $600,000, if I'm not mistaken, Stacy, right around there. And that's a tremendous amount of money. And some of the boilers, Stacy and I were talking yesterday, 1962. That's how long we've had these boilers. They need to be replaced. And actually, I think you and I were talking about this yesterday, Robert. The efficiencies, see, we're replacing the boiler, but now we're replacing it with an incredibly efficient boiler.
Right.
So we actually will see savings in lots of our bills over the years too, which really is going to be a benefit to the district. So we're really in a tremendously good place. And Cindy, I know you've mentioned a number of times, putting it towards kids. Everything we're doing is for the kids and for the community. And
Stacy, I do want to ask Stacy, so are we going to be able to have the new uniform? I mean, I'm only saying new because our kids are so shortchanged with uniforms for sports. Who don't have pants? Who's got to share? Will we be able to order them this year with the budget, like with the money we're getting for sports for next year?
We could certainly look at that. I don't think it's any problem to get some of the teams new uniforms. So I think we can do it across the board. I'm not sure about that.
I would really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
So, first of all, on behalf of the board, thank you so much, Ms. Lotion and Ms. O'Connor, for the presentation. I know that we've gone over this so many different times, and really this year has been just a roller coaster of a ride ever since this pandemic hit. We were expecting a 20% cut, like we've said before, and here we are, really probably in a place that's just beyond our wildest dreams in terms of the amount of money that is coming to Brentwood. And I know that there is a difference of opinion in terms of the board, whether or not we should have gone with a 1.23 tax increase, which would have generated an extra $1.4 million. I'm so certain that we will be able to do just a tremendous amount of things, even when we expense all of the capital money that we have.
Yeah, but you're not nervous, Robert? Robert, you wrote in the newspaper that you're nervous that if the state don't hold up.
Yes.
When I read that, I'm going to be honest with you. When I read that, that made me feel that you were unsure if we're going to get that money. And that's the only reason why I want the 1.23. That's the only reason why.
So let me clarify that. So here's the thing, Cindy. So yes. So what the quote in the paper was about was just again, we are going to be celebrating all of this money that we got this year, and it's in the tune of I want to say, and Ms. O'Connor, $60 million is between the federal money and the foundation aid money. And
I
so
think
Cindy,
that's a lot of money when we have 17 schools.
Yep. So Cindy, so $60 million, and we were
Robert, 2 houses in Brentwood cost $1 million.
Yes. So
2 houses cost $1 million. We have 17 schools and 20,000 students. I didn't think I was being greedy when I said to you guys that I wanted to raise it by 18 cents a day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be greedy to the community, whoever's watching. I'm concerned about getting our kids the best. Like Paula said, she wants to be like Hop Hog and Plain Edge. So do I. Yep. So to charge 20 cents a day to give out students what every other district has, I didn't think was being greedy. I'm sorry.
So $60 million in 1 year was enough for me to say that we should do everything to also protect the taxpayers. We were expecting $10 million from the governor, hoping that it was going to generate an extra $15 million or an extra $5 million with the with the legislators' input, or maybe even $20 million. And we were going to make that work no matter what. I mean, had that been the number, we would have probably gone with a 1.23. But here we have $60 million before us for one particular year. And if we take into consideration what this community lived through COVID, we have people who weren't able to work their full-time jobs, who weren't able to generate the same kind of income. I thought the most prudent thing to do, and of course the board members.
And we gave back money last year. Am I correct, Stacy? We gave back millions from the budget
It
last
wasn't
year?
a give back. It wasn't a give back, Cindy. It was we just didn't maximize the amount of taxes that we could have generated last year. So it wasn't, we didn't give anything back. We just didn't go to the max, a tax rate that we would have been allowed under the law. Just like this year, we could have gone to a 3%.
I just don't think 20 cents a day would have hurt anybody. I think people want more for their children. That's
But
all
with
we
six-
hear over and over and over. I want more for my kids. I want better food. I want more technology. I want better books, better this.
With 60,
But we have $60 million that's gonna be able to afford us.
But you didn't
most
hear
of
what I
it. If
said.
You see
Two
the
houses,
list that
excuse me,
Rich
two houses
showed
in
us,
Brentwood.
and he says within that $60 million, it would be able to pay for all of that.
We're
Why
gonna
would
see,
we
he
go
just
and
said,
tax the community
one
now
burner,
when they
one
have,
burner
when
cost
they have gone through
$600,000.
such hardship?
We have 17 schools, all right?
I get
If
that.
two houses
I
in
get
Brentwood
that.
cost
But
$1
we also
million,
have $60 million
No, I'm sorry.
in which
We're
to
gonna
do this
see.
with for one
So,
year.
you know what?
Let's see
We're
what
gonna
happens
see
for
when
next
somebody
year.
wants something and you guys turn it down, because I'm not
So-
gonna be part of it.
so let me
I'll tell you right
just,
now.
if I can
I'm not
finish, if I
turning
can finish.
down from our students, because you guys say we have all this money.
Well,
I don't think it's a lot of money.
$60 million is a tremendous amount of money for 1 year. And can I just clarify what it was that I was quoted in the Newsday as saying, and what it was that I was referencing. And it's funny because we just had a audit committee meeting this past Tuesday, I believe, or Monday, I believe it's, and Trustee Holder Daniel is a part of that audit committee. And it was echoed, what I said was echoed by an auditor, an external auditor in that meeting. And basically what the quote summarizes, it says, we should celebrate. Absolutely. Getting this extra money is something that was a godsend to this district. And basically what I was trying to say was that even with that being the case, even external auditors are saying that we should proceed cautiously, because we were in this situation in 2000. We were in circumstances very similar to this in 2007. And then we had what they call a double recession. So in 2008, not only did we have the state funding cut, but we also had the gap elimination adjustment burdened on the school district.
That's
So
why I asked for 1.23 for a budget.
But here's the thing about it is that was something that was so the money was promised, but it was delivered for I think 1 or 2 years. And then because of the financial situation in New York State, we had to, undo everything that we were promised, and we had to deal with the fiscal crisis of 2008. Now, that's not the case this year. So I want to be very clear. The money that we're talking about, the $60 million that we're talking about, is in our hand. It's not something that's going to be owed us. So what I was trying to get across in terms of message is that we should continue to proceed with caution. And what they recommend is that we try not to implement, recurring costs until we get a firm handle on whether or not this foundation aid is going to be here for years to come. So I truly believe that we are going to be okay for this year and for next year. I really believe that there are going to be efforts made to make sure that it's funded for those 2 years. But beyond that, I'm really not so certain. So I love where we are. I don't think that that raising taxes is something that we needed to do this year. I do believe that we're going to be able to complete all of those projects that were presented by Mr. Lochner and Ms. O'Connor, and we may even have extra money to do some of the extras that even you have outlined.
Right.
And I just, I'm always cautious about how it is that we proceed. So that's all that quote was. It wasn't about me being worried about this year. So
I have a question about this year. Robert, thank you for that explanation. I do have a question. Now, this budget does not take into account the federal monies that we are receiving.
Thank you, Julie.
I know, yes. And I know that we have a deadline as to when we have to tell, I guess the authorities how we're going to spend that money. Stacy, could you just remind us? I know we've said this before, but when is that and when will we be meeting to have those discussions?
Stacy, if I could just jump in, and thank you, Julie. That's what I was trying to say here, that I want to make it clear to the board as well as to the community, everything we identified tonight was actually out of our $454 million budget, which only is representative of the $45 million addition to last year. We actually have not, many of the things some of the things we did speak about, the Aquas boards, putting them into our classrooms, that will come from some of the federal money. But to your point, Julie.
It's in this budget. I mean,
but-
we do have some coming out of this general budget, right? Because it's in here.
Yes, and what we have to do, you asked prior to this, is we have to go out to the community before July 1st. We actually have to identify how we're going to spend some of these federal money, the federal money.
All of it, right.
3 and 4 years. So actually, that's even, ahead of us. It's a month or so away that we're going to have this federal money to spend in ways that, again, will benefit our students in ways that really are quite exciting. And we'll present that to the community at a later date, but not to confuse the two. But
exactly. So I'm sorry, but I have
Just to go back to that for a minute, it hasn't been formally approved, but there are indications that that's going to be delayed by 3 months. So I think we're going to have longer to actually come up with that plan.
Right.
Mr. Lawson, what I got from you and from Stacy was that there was enough money to go around and still give the community and still not raise the tax levy for the community. Because this community, all through the years, they have always supported our budget. So this is the first time in a very long time that we could actually say, okay, we will not raise taxes this year. And there's enough to go around. That's what I got from our discussions that we've had in the past couple of weeks.
And I think as a community, it's just good faith.
Yes.
To show the community that we all know that the pandemic has brought hard times to every household.
Right.
And, we are considerate and conscious of that fact.
And I feel the same way. And I think we should do something. Our community, we are a community, when we don't have the money, we still support our kids every year. And there are other districts that have a lot more money than we have that have voted down their budgets. Our community has always supported us.
So Mr. Lotion, I mean, I just took it for granted that, that everybody understood that it was $60 million, that the federal money was in addition to what it is that we're saying. Right. And I just, Cindy, do you understand that there's a 20 million?
I understand. There is so much to be done.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure our kids get what they deserve.
Right.
Listen, the list of stuff that I have that has been told to me, it's sad. It's very, very sad.
And we're all aware of it. We're absolutely all aware of it.
You're all aware of it. I've only been on this board. This is my 3rd year. This should have been done before I came on.
But Cindy, do you understand? Do you understand?
Are you kidding?
But
you
Cindy,
guys,
do you?
No, listen. Whatever.
I really.
You don't want to raise the taxes. That's fine. That's fine.
So Cindy, I fundamentally think that you don't understand the crisis that we were in
I
financially
do
over the past
understand.
10
Believe me,
years.
listen,
So when we
I'm
are,
a taxpayer. What do you
when we
think?
are-
I'm not a taxpayer?
no, so we're
I
all,
don't
I
have
believe
kids
that
in
we're
the
all
school no
taxpayers.
more.
But what I'm saying is that when we have to decide whether or not we are going to keep those services for our children in the classrooms or replace a boiler, that just means that we're just kicking the can down the road, and that's the best decision that we can make at the time. We have discussed,
That's why,
as a
you
board,
guys
we
can
have
have your,
discussed
I have my
putting
own
out
opinion. You're right.
as a board, we have discussed putting out a bond, but a bond was going to further tax our community members. What we're getting in essence,
That's why I
free-
asked what
is-
is cheaper, a
So what-
1.23 or asking for a bond. That's why I asked that.
so what we're essentially getting, if I can describe this in a way, is free bond money. We're getting bond money from the federal government and from the state aid to do all of these projects that would have been a burden to the taxpayer one way or the other. On top of that, we would have had debt service to pay.
And
for
I just
the-
hope, I'm hoping that everything gets done. That's all I want to see is everything that you guys said that we can get done, get done. That's
we
it.
would have had bond service to pay for the money
Listen, you
that
know
we,
the saying, go big or go home? I like to go big because I like to have the best for everybody. That's me.
and I'm there right with you.
All right,
So
well, I'm
Right.
just telling you that's
So-
me.
No,
so-
we're
so
talking,
let
we're
me
talking
just-
in
Can I have a more
general.
I
So-
have
so
a
let me-
logistical question. I have a a meeting on my calendar for June 3rd. Is that not going to happen? I don't know. Usually I put things in my calendar from when we get our calendars at the beginning of the year, and it says budget. So I don't know if that's the date we want to keep to go with the federal monies, or if that's not something that will happen.
I mean, we could discuss that.
Okay.
That could be for discussion. So Cindy, what I'm trying to say is that this is free bond money, and not only that, but the way it's crafted is that we will not have to generate, additional expenses to pay off the interest. And if you listen to what Cindy, Ms. O'Connor said, is that, and these were part of discussions that I've had with Ms. O'Connor. and
Listen,
Ms.
nobody
O'Connor,
wants me to
is
say
that-
it.
is that
Nobody
what-
wants me to do a 1.2 because I sound greedy.
What
All right,
what it
well,
will
I
what
don't
it
feel
will
like
do.
I'm being,
what-
listen,
what
we
it
all
will
have
do-
our own opinion, Robert. You have yours, I have mine.
What it
I'm a
will do.
taxpayer too. I'm a taxpayer.
What it will
All right,
do
I mean,
is
so,
the way it's set up is that it will generate income for the district in years to come. So it's a very
we're
great
not like other
opportunity.
districts
So
that have 2 schools. We have 17 schools.
I understand that.
And
but
an administration building that needs a lot of work also.
and I
just-
believe, and I truly believe that we are going to be okay for this year. And that is, that's ultimately why we're here.
I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking future years to come also.
Yep.
I think that we just need to have a strategic plan, all be on the same page,
Yep.
have, line items of what we feel are priority and attack it that way, because it's insurmountable, all of the things that we need to do. We're, we have, like you guys, we can all agree that we have things that need to be repaired from the 1960s. We're in 2021 going into 2022. So we just have to attack the big items
Yep.
that are most important. And I'm sure within a year or so, we'll have our wants, and we can all
Yep.
gather together and think about the things we want. We
Hey,
do
Eileen, you're
uniforms,
frozen.
helmets,
Yeah, you're fine.
certified helmets. So we gotta, we can get there. We just have to be strategic in how we get there and spend our money wisely and most efficiently for the district at this point in time.
And
Thank
the
you,
plan-
Eileen. I think that's a great plan. And I think I'm looking forward to having those meetings though, so that we can create those lists.
Absolutely.
So that we
and-
have a sort of like a platform to work from.
And
I
the plan,
think
and
we all
I
want
believe
the
the
same things. We just kind of have different ways of going about it, or see things, maybe through a different lens.
Yeah,
But
and I believe the plan that was presented tonight is a part of that strategic, mission, that larger plan that you've just outlined. So I believe
I
that,
disagree with that. I just think that we all, as each 7 board members, see deficits in certain areas where maybe another board member doesn't
Yep.
and is unaware. So if we just have that dialogue, and make each other aware of where the deficits are, we can get to a better place quicker.
Yep.
No, I understand that. I know Cindy mentioned the administration building. That's not aidable when we do any kind of improvements to the administration building. Am I correct
Exactly.
in that?
That's
So,
correct.
Correct, you have to have students in the building.
Because-
and we don't, we don't
Exactly.
have students in the building. But I would, and I still believe that the money should go to our students. But what I got from Mr. Loescher and you, Stacy, was that there's money for that. We can still give our community a break for 1 year.
And
No.
here's the thing, Ms. Moore, is that when we do create these savings on the general fund side, because of this extra money, we will have additional dollars to address some of the
Right.
issues that you might have over at the admin building. So that's, it all supposed to flow in a way that puts Brentwood and the district in a better place. And I truly believe that we are right now, we are setting up this district or the potentially setting up this district for decades to come. The investments that we're talking about now, we're talking about boilers that are 60 years old, and that, just replacing one boiler doesn't sound, like Mr. Loescher said, doesn't sound sexy, but
it's a lot of money.
But the decrease,
It's a lot of money.
the decrease in maintenance expenses throughout the years and the decrease in just overall operational costs will free up extra dollars so that we can do other things within the district. So these are must-dos, and I, again, maybe just my opinion, I
And
really
also,
do
I
believe.
just had a question. We do anticipate receiving the same level of funding next year and the following year,
Yes.
correct? So
That's
that's
what's-
60 million that we're speaking of, we're going to get that next year, and we're going to get that the following year.
Well, the
That is
state
what
one
we're
we
being
will.
told, yes.
Right.
If I could just say just a couple of more things, and I'm sorry that there's a disagreement because maybe I didn't do a good enough job.
No, you did a great job. It's
No,
me.
No.
all right? I want the best, and that's all.
I understand, but
Sorry.
I do want to just say again that there's going to be so many things happening over the next few years. Your head is going to spin. There is really a tremendous amount that is happening. Actually, it's already the energy performance bond
Thank
grant
you.
that we have. We actually now
Yes.
have solar panels in just about all of our buildings. That's one exciting things that are happening. But also, I really did, I want to say go back a little bit because I know you guys are concerned about the students. Everything really is designed for the students. One of the things I didn't do a good job, and I apologize, Stacy, it just occurred to me, when I mentioned the improvements in the septic systems, okay? One of the things I didn't really go further. When we repair the septic systems at the Sondling, Southeast, the Freshman Center, what's going to follow right after that is we're now going to put in permanent classrooms. So at the Freshman Center, one of the holdups that we had, for example, at the Freshman Center in the high school, we were not able, even though we have this in grants, we were not able to move forward with putting those classrooms in. 4 classrooms at the high school, 4 classrooms at the Freshman Center, I believe 4 at Southeast. There are some of these we have not been able to move forward with because we haven't been able to repair the septic system. So when we repair those septic systems, we can then move forward with getting those classrooms attached to the Freshman Center. I know all of you guys, I'm using the Freshman Center for an example now. I know all of you guys are familiar with those portables outside, which have long outlasted their life. So to be able to now,
Hello, I went to elementary school there.
okay, to
Just
now
for your
do
information.
to be able to,
Okay.
so to do this, we now can repair the septic system and now move forward with other grant money, which isn't costing the district anything. And we can now have those permanent classrooms attached to the freshman center, for example, and the high school for a second example. Very exciting stuff. So, you
Rich,
know,
I think part of, if I can interject, I think part of the problem, like when we present to the community, right? And we're explaining, we had this blessing, because it is, that came upon us. And people are looking for tangible things, right? So they're looking for like the things that they can see with their eyes. So they don't equate the money being spent on the septic system,
Thank
which
you.
triggers
Mhm.
the additional classrooms,
Sure.
you know, so that's kind of the conversation. See,
Right.
that's the conversation right there. We have to fix the septic system so that we can now expand the freshman center, add additional classrooms. That's what people see, because they're saying, well, you're getting all this money, but you know, some people, I'm not going to say everyone, and some people are going to look at it and say, well, you're getting all this money and I really don't see much of a change. But the infrastructure that is imploding needs that, you know, for this round needs the most attention so that we can do the other work.
Yeah, absolutely.
and
That's
you know
where
what,
your
you
list
missed-
comes in, though. Your idea of the list is fantastic,
Right.
Eileen. I think
Right.
we
So-
should create a list that people can see and that we can work off, check off,
Mhm.
and kind of just use as a,
Right.
you know, base.
You
So,
know,
so
just
Eileen,
that way
to
the
the point.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Eileen.
No, I just don't want the community to say, you got this $60 million and what are you doing with it? You know, and and accusations become, you know,
So
rampant.
to the point that you're trying to make, Eileen, I'm going to also try to piggyback on that. You
Mhm.
know, I'm not sure if everybody truly understands and appreciates what Ms. O'Connor had explained, or what Mr. Lotion had explained in terms of our reduction of the fund balance, moving it from $38 million to $19 million. That is in essence us borrowing from the money that we have available for the next year's school budget to pay for things that, you know, that we have to expense now. That is just a really bad business model. So the fact that we were able to bring it down to under $20 million is a huge step forward to us, because we are not mortgaging the future of our instructional or our district away. And I would also, you know, venture to say that if we found ourselves in this situation next year, we should continue along those lines in terms of bringing that fund balance rollover to even less than $20 million that we currently have. Years ago, I think we had a conversation not too long ago. I can't remember what it was. That fund balance was a little over or around $4 million. It wasn't $38 million. So in terms of, you know, the health, the financial health of this district, you know, the more we throw towards that, the better off we are, the healthier we are financially. And I think that is, you know, just to the point that you're making, it's not a tangible. People aren't going to be able to see it. You know, you can't touch that. But but in terms of the balance sheet, you know, and you're in the financial services, that was a home run. That was absolutely a home run. So, you know, and I do believe to the point that Mr. Loshner said, you know, this year there's going to be a lot. There is going to be, you know, we've had some opportunity to talk about some of these plans, and it's not just, you know, planning. It's actually meeting with contractors and getting these things done as quickly as possible. So, so let's say I'm super excited, and I really do believe that it is a blessing to all of us and this community. Really is. So, any other questions from board members? Mr. Lotion, Ms. O'Connor, anything?
I just say that, you know, we talked about a lot of things this evening, and I I do appreciate it. I really do. I think it's terrific. There's also, you know, sometimes what's lost here, and I just want to interject this too. You know, we're also planning, and we're really excited about some professional development, you know, for our staff members. Sometimes we don't even speak about that. But the assistant superintendents, the cabinet in particular, as well as BTA and BIPSO, we've been working towards some real professional development that I think will help our teachers and therefore help our students. So there's a lot of instructional things that, again, don't really get talked about in a short meeting like this, that we're also putting a tremendous amount of energies and focus into that. So classroom instruction, which I think is terrific now, will only get better in the future. So there's lots of other things that are also happening with this additional money that I think will reap benefits in the future. And there's also one other point, Ms. Feliciano, and that is that your taxes are going up, okay? I hate to, your school taxes will not be, but I can guarantee you that the town of Islip taxes are going up. I can guarantee you state taxes are going up. And, your federal taxes are going up. So, the community, we are all going to get hit with additional taxes. So I don't want the community to think that when they get their tax bill that we said publicly that your taxes are not going up. But, you have your police, you have your firemen, the library. We can't speak for those entities, but I'm probably going up as, more than likely, as well as I said, the state and federal taxes.
The town tax is going up quite a bit, I understand.
What's
So,
that?
Town tax is going up quite a bit. That's why we could give out, if we, this school district, could give our community just a small break for 1 year, I think, to me, it's a plus. Because, lots of times what'll happen is they're saying, well, we're getting all this money, why are our taxes going up? And I mean, it's not going to be like this every year, but the 1 year that we could possibly do something like this, let's do it for our community. They've always supported us when we put our budget out. So let's give them a break.
Mr. Lochner, thank you so much. And Ms. Moore, thank you so much for that closing statement. Mr. Lochner, that's a very, very good point. Absolutely. So please, when you look at your tax bill, if it goes up, there should be a 0 next to the school tax portion of it. Listen, I assuming that this budget is passed and approved by the community, of course. So with that being said, I mean, I think it's almost 9 o'clock. If anybody wants to go to 10, just let me know. If not, I'm going to ask. Was that a yes, Ms. Holder Daniel? So if you can turn on your mic, please. We are going to be asking, I am going to be asking for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:57 p.m.
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Gonzalez Prescott. Ms. Holder Daniel, would you like to give the second?
Absolutely, second.
Second by Ms. Holder Daniel. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so moved. And thank you for everybody who had the patience to wait for our tardy exit to public. All right. Have a wonderful night on behalf of the entire board and the central
Good
administrators.
night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night. Good night.